Hi guys, I'm back again today with another reaction video, and today we're checking out 10 reasons why I love the Netherlands as an American. So this is going to be interesting. It's like the one a while ago that we reacted to, Zoe's video. Amazing. And now let's see a male perspective and also a different European country, right? And probably a different American state as well. So it's going to be a great comparison. She was from New York, the first video, and she's in Germany. He is in Netherlands, and also he's like, I'm originally from California. So that's like a very it's like different, right? So I'm really excited to check it out. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe, click the bell button. Let's get it.
I never thought I'd say this, but I do
But
like Dutch directness. From one of the happiest
oh,
countries in the world
honest.
to more bicycles than people, to the work life
Directness?
balance, to not
In
having
terms
to
of
compare myself all the time,
honest?
to the beauty of this country from canals to windmills
Ah,
to gyms inside of churches. Here are 10 reasons
what do you mean? Like I can pray whilst like losing weight? I'm like, God, please, can I lose this freaking kilo? And you use kilograms, right? Right, yeah. We use the right system of measurements, right? Not freaking pounds and all the miles and all that, right? Europe?
canals to windmills to gyms inside of churches.
That's the best. The gym and the church is my favorite. No, actually the bikes, because why would I go inside and work out? I just want to
Here are
bike
10 reasons why I love
outside
the
and see the
Netherlands.
world.
Do normaal or act normal. This is a Dutch
Oh,
philosophy, a phrase that I really appreciate because it's really about standing in versus standing out. It's about
oh, I like
not
that.
bragging. It's about conforming. And this is such a big contrast as compared to US culture where I'm from, where it's really about being unique, being the best that you can be. And that can actually be a formula for unhappiness. Now, it's not to say that the Dutch don't achieve, they don't want greatness. They do, but they don't brag about it. For example, when I went to university here to do my master's, when I got my exam grades, I got a 7 out of a 10. And I was quite disappointed because,
That is
well, a
good.
7 out of a 10 for me meant a C. It was not good enough. Then I learned that 7
As
was
long as I
actually a
pass, I'm
pretty good
good.
score. And then the Dutch classmates told me that they got a 6 out of a 10 and they were quite happy because, well, they had just
If I get
passed and it
five,
was good enough. And it
good.
goes to
Yeah, if
show
it's
that
six, good.
here the mindset is that you can be just good
I
enough and
truly
still
belong
live
in
a great
Europe.
quality of
Trust
life.
me.
And there's probably a good reason why Dutch kids are the happiest kids in the world because,
Because
well,
they're not
especially in education
comparing
systems,
themselves.
when you don't have super high expectations, that can actually be a great thing when it comes to happiness. And here's the really important
Mm.
thing that I do want to say about do normal is that I find myself a lot happier in this country because I find myself comparing myself less and less as compared to the US. The
Mm.
US, it's almost like this big competition, comparison game of
Mm.
trying to be the best. And people seem to judge you based on where you went to school, what
Oh
job
my
you have,
gosh.
what company you work for. And the first question people ask you at a dinner party is, what do you do? And people do ask
Oh
that
my god, I met like someone recently, like old. It's not necessarily a classmate, schoolmate's dad. And then he was like, "Oh, so who are you affiliated with?" And I was just like, I was about to say God, right? At that point, I was just wanted to see his reaction. Like, I'm not affiliated with nobody. And why does it matter? Right? Because his child is now famous, so he wants to kind of like what people. I'm like I was gonna say God literally, but I'm like, okay, respect your elders. Okay, respect your elders. Don't be smart. Just be like just act as if you don't understand what he's saying and just move away.
question people ask you at a dinner party is, what do you do? And people do
Mm,
ask that question here and they do care, but people don't seem to judge you based on what you do, where you went to school.
that's
And I think
nice.
that's a big factor when we think about happiness. When you're not comparing yourself as much, you become a lot happier. Now, you also see this in society. The prime minister rides his bike to work.
Oh
Also,
wow,
this
really?
society, it's
I would
very
have never
egalitarian,
guessed he's a
meaning
prime
that
minister.
I can call my professor by his first name. That was a shock for me. And so this philosophy of do normaal, act normaal, it's something that I really, really appreciate. Dutch people are some of the most direct people in the
Oh,
world, and I've come to love it. Well, because I tend to be a very indirect person when it comes to communication, and ever since moving here, I've learned to be more direct. And it feels good. It feels good to be able to say what I think, to say what I feel. Now, a lot of people tend to confuse directness with rudeness, but they're two completely.
yes. True, true, true. I hate that because they use this as an excuse.
A lot of people tend to confuse directness with rudeness, but they're two completely different things. Now, it goes back to the fact that back in the days, Calvinism used to be a big part of Dutch culture, and that religion taught people to be very honest. And so, directness is really about being honest, it's about saying what you
Mm-mm.
think. And what really helps in this culture is that there's not a lot of hierarchy and it's more egalitarian. So you can say what you
Okay.
think to a boss, to a CEO, to a professor, to an authority figure. Whereas in other cultures, you have to be very careful what you say to someone else, especially a boss, and especially
The
when it comes to
dad
negative
of my friend.
feedback. And so, if you even look a bit deeper into Erin Meyer's culture map, she's done many years of research into cultural differences. You can see that Dutch people are some of the most low context communicators. This means communication is very direct, simple, and
Mm,
precise, as compared to
I
higher
like that.
context cultures where communication is more nuanced, more contextual. You have to read between the lines for certain cultures. There's another scale called the direct negative feedback scale, and you can see that Dutch people are very okay with even giving direct negative feedback. And I do think
Mm.
this is where Dutch people get that bad reputation of being rude because Dutch people
Oh,
are very okay giving positive feedback and also very okay
also
giving
negative.
negative feedback as well. And that might be a shock for many people. But again, I do like the fact that you don't have to beat around the bush. You can
Mm,
say what you think, you can save a lot of time. And especially for an overthinker like me, it helps me resolve many challenges about what someone else
true.
might be thinking. So I really love the work-life balance in this country as compared to the US where I'm from, where frankly speaking, people work longer hours. Now, if work-life balance is of importance to you, which I believe it is, the Netherlands is one of the best countries to live in when it comes to work-life balance. Very,
This
very
is
few
my
people
calling.
work long hours in this
I have to
country.
go. I have to
I
move.
remember when I first arrived to this country, I was connected to a friend's friend who transferred from Deloitte Consulting in Chicago to Deloitte Consulting in Amsterdam. And I asked her, hey, what's it like to work in this country as compared to the US? And she told me that she was shocked in her first week because at 5 p.m., the office was empty. It was clear. People left at 5 p.m. Consultants. You would never see that happen in consulting in the US. I was also shocked in my first week here as well because frankly, people were leaving at 4 or 5 p.m. But the thing is, people are very efficient and effective here. People don't feel the need to stay longer than necessary. The other shock that I had was that people actually use up all the vacation days here, and people have a guaranteed minimum of vacation days in this country. Well, in Europe, it's 20 days in the Netherlands, and people take the full 20, 25 days, however many you get. As compared to the US, I had 5 weeks of vacation in one company, but I never fully used the full 5 weeks because well, that's not part of the culture. People feel like they have too much work to do or that they can't take the full vacation days. And that's very different here. People laughed at me, my colleagues, because I didn't take the full 25 days. I frankly did not know how to take vacation in my first year in
Like
this
go
country. But
home
now I
or
wish I had six,
go
7 weeks
somewhere.
because, well, that's part of the work life balance in this country. The other thing that I really appreciate is the fact that when you talk about mental illness and burnout, this is one of the most friendly burnout friendly countries in the world because if you suffer from burnout, which is recognized as a mental illness here, then you can take sick leave and the company will
Oh
pay
wow.
70% of your salary up to 2 years. So people are
Oh
okay
my
telling people that,
gosh.
hey, I was burnt out at a job. I never heard anything about burnout in the US. So that's a big difference. The last thing that comes to mind is that
Here
a
they'll
lot of
just laugh
people
at
here
you.
work part time. In fact, I think the Netherlands is the country with the most part-time workers in the world, and especially
Oh.
women here as well. Hey, there's work-life balance, and I really like this country because of that fact.
Yeah, I
What
like
a
a
beautiful
4 hour
country to
day
live
work
in, from the windmills
and
to
then
the canals to the bicycles to the steep stairs to the narrow houses. There's
yeah.
something unique about this country, especially if you come from a place like the US, where it's a lot bigger. The history and architecture are a lot more modern, and the cities are bigger and more like metropolises, because living in this country feels like you're living in a very big, small town. Even a place like Amsterdam for me seems like a big, small town. I remember when I first moved here, I lived in this Dutch canal house, and that was such a unique experience because it was
Oh,
400
that's
years old.
nice.
And even walking up and down the stairs, you could see that those stairs, there were dips in those stairs because people had walked on those steps for over 100 years. And it's not just Amsterdam. Amsterdam is beautiful,
I wanna
but this
move there.
country
Somebody
is
give me a
full
job.
of hidden gems that most people don't know about. Utrecht is like the
Mm.
Amsterdam without tourists. The Hague,
Reacted
I
to
like going to
Utrecht.
The Hague because it's a big international city with
The
a
Hague.
beach. Rotterdam has a
Oh.
modern architecture. Delft is actually my favorite small town because, well, it's very small, cute, and it's known for Delft blue, Delft pottery. Actually, I moved to this country because of Maastricht, where I spent 1 year studying. And I remember watching
Oh.
this YouTube video of Maastricht, and I fell in love with it. It seemed like a fairy tale. And when I lived there, I would go and cycle into the countryside. 1 minute I'd be in the Netherlands, the next I'd be in Belgium, the next I'd be in the French-speaking
Mm.
part of Belgium. And something that comes to mind is in the wintertime, yes, the weather sucks, but sometimes the canals will freeze if it gets really cold. And that is such a special experience where you see people ice skating on the canals,
I'll be
and you
scared
could actually
though.
walk on the canals yourself as well. And it just
What?
seems like you're in this walking painting. You see all this old architecture
I'll be
around,
so scared
smiling
too.
faces. Such a special experience. So the Netherlands, a very small country, but there's so much to see, do. And speaking of architecture, did you know that 20% of all churches in this country have been converted into non-religious uses, such as
Oh.
apartments,
Like the
gyms,
gym.
bookstores? What a cool way to make use of churches that are no longer in use. When I lived in Maastricht,
Yeah.
I actually went to a gym inside of a church. And I remember running on the treadmill, lifting weights, and looking around, looking up, and thinking to myself, wow, I'm lifting weights inside of a church. Who would have expected that? But that was a
I
really cool
don't know.
experience. And the Dutch have this very innovative sense of making use of space in this country because it's not the biggest country in the world. So you really have to
Mm.
be creative in how you use space in this country. Did you know that in the Netherlands there are 17 million people and 23 million bicycles?
Oh.
It's a country built for cycling. I mean, the country is flat, for better or for worse, but that's great for cycling. And it doesn't take a doctor
Oh,
to tell you
whoa,
that if
it's
you cycle
frozen.
more, that's going to be better for
It's
your health
not
as
necessarily
well.
frozen,
I
but
remember when I lived in LA, I would drive 2 blocks just to go to my local supermarket. And now I can't
oh.
imagine not having a bike. I bike everywhere, from the supermarket to work to shopping. I used to go to the gym just to cycle, but now I cycle every day. It's also quite efficient in terms of systems. You have subscription services where you can rent a bike for a day, for a
Oh.
week, for a month, for a year using swap feeds. At every
Oh,
train
wow.
station, they have these OV feed stations where you can rent a bike for a day for about €4. And did you know that in the Netherlands, 50% of all public transit trips start with a bicycle? Everything is connected. This is sustainable
Mm.
transportation. The bike lanes, the roads, the public transportation, everything is connected. So the bike lanes feed people to go into public
To the
transportation. And that's not only
oh.
great for people's health, but that's also great for the environment as well. And oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
public transportation, it's a beautiful thing for the most part when it works. But from my experience, it works most of the time. The options are endless, from trams to metro, buses, trains, bicycle, by foot. And it's a really small country. You can get anywhere within a day. When I used to live in Maastricht, I would do day trips to Amsterdam in the north, and I would get there within 3.5 hours. And many stores, they
How
sell
to?
these day passes for 20 euros and you can travel anywhere in the country within 24 hours. And if you work for a company, many companies will often pay your public transportation costs if you need to commute to the office. So,
Oh
sustainable public
wow,
transportation, it works in this country for the
that's
most
a
part. Almost
nice
every single Dutch person I
deal.
know speaks perfect English. And that's because the Netherlands is the country
Mm.
with the highest level of English, where English is the second language. And it makes it
Oh, okay.
easy, very
I don't have
easy
to
for someone to
learn
come
a
travel
new
here,
language.
to do business here, to work here, to study here, to
That's
live
my
here, because the
worry.
Dutch speak great, almost perfect English. And it makes sense because, well, the Netherlands is a small country, but they have a long history of being business people, tradespeople. And if you want to do business with people from around the world, you need to be able to communicate. And because the level of English here is so high, it makes it easy for people to come work here, to study here. In fact, I came here to do a
Mm.
master's, English only, in Maastricht. And because it was an English only program,
Let
I
me
was able to
check
meet
if I can
people from
do
around the world, from around Europe. And also in the workplace, the
masters
same
there.
is true as well. In many international companies, English is the method of communication in the workplace. And that attracts a lot of people. It creates this very diverse international mix, which I really appreciate as well. When it comes to safety, the Netherlands is one of the safest countries to live in the
So
world.
I've
The
heard,
crime
yeah.
rate here is quite low, and that's something I really appreciate, the fact that I can go out daytime, nighttime, and feel safe. Women tell me this as well. And even if I go to, say, a bad neighborhood in this country, it doesn't even feel that bad or unsafe. I've never felt unsafe in this country. As compared to if I go into a bad neighborhood in the US, I definitely do feel tense and a bit unsafe. There are many factors. One factor is that, say, something like guns are not allowed in the Netherlands, whereas they are allowed in the US. The other thing is the homeless population in the US. I'm always shocked when I go back to a place like San Francisco and I see homeless people everywhere downtown. Many of these
Oh,
people have mental problems as well, which
oh
is sad.
no.
And when you have mental people walking around the streets uncontrolled for, that can also be dangerous. Now, when it comes to crime in the Netherlands, your bike will probably get stolen, but that's about it, petty theft. And I'll take that any day over, say, the crime, say, in other countries. And that's something I really appreciate
Yeah,
about this
go
country.
on,
And
steal
for
my
those of
bike.
you who aren't from
But
Europe, and if you come from a place like the US, one really cool thing about being in the Netherlands is that you are in the center of Europe and you can travel very easily. I know for many it's not a surprise, especially if you live in Europe, but when you come from a place like California where you're driving 6, 7 hours and you're still in the same state, here in this country, when you drive 6, 7 hours, you could be in two different countries. And what I do love is being able to take a train from Central Station in Amsterdam and being in Central Paris and Central London in 4 or 5 hours. That's very
wow.
unique. And also being able to take these budget airlines and getting from one country to another
Mm.
country within a few hours, that's something that is very unique and amazing about living in the Netherlands. There you have it, 10 reasons why I love this country, the Netherlands. And I feel like I've only scratched the surface. I've been here for about 4 years, and I feel
Well,
like
that's
there's still so
long.
much for me to learn about what makes this country great. What about you? What are the reasons why you love this country? Please leave them in the comments
I
below,
love
and we'd
it
love to hear from you.
because
Take care.
I've watched a lot of videos
Never
and they're all positive. But yeah, one thing that he said about the countries as well, like you can be in different countries when you like bike along, not even a long distance, like even short distance, and then when you're like traveling for 3 to 4 hours, you're in another country. There's a Sidemen video. Yes, that's my Europe reference, like I told you guys, right? Before I had this reactions. So, anyways, they had a, how do you call this? Like it's an amazing race type of video wherein they were separated into groups, paired, and they were told to like do different things, right? Different tasks. But then they'll end up at the same spot. So one group, I think they were supposed to travel to a place. I forget the name, but they went to the different location. Like they went to a different, let's say, They were supposed to go to Amsterdam, right? It's like example. And then they ended up in Amsterdam of Belgium instead of Netherlands, Amsterdam. So, and it took only like 2 hours to get there, or an hour of some couple of minutes. I don't even remember anymore. But they took a taxi to Amsterdam, the place I forget, but let's say it's Amsterdam. And then the other team went to the Netherlands version, but they still beat, like, they were in freaking Belgium, right? But they still beat the people who were just in Netherlands. Like, how is that possible? Because they took a taxi first and foremost. The others, I think, they biked, and it took them like 2 hours biking. It was raining. They were so miserable, but they still had fun. They said, right? And that's like my only reference to like Netherlands or some parts of Europe is when the sidemen just like do activities within Europe. So I like watching those videos. But anyways, that's besides the point. This has been a very, very detailed video, and it makes you just wanna, I mean, at least me, because maybe you guys already live there, it just makes me want to go. I think I'm gonna look for muscles course to do over there, and I bet it's not that expensive anyway. I'm not sure. Probably is expensive, but it's gonna be affordable. So we'll see. You never know. One day I'll just be like, "Hi guys, I'm in Netherlands." Bulakasha. Right? Ow, my neck. Anyways, guys, I've gotta leave. Thank you guys for joining, and I'll see you. Oh, I will see you probably on June 1st because I'm not gonna be around till June 1st. So I'll see you then. Thank you guys. Bye.